Hey there and welcome to the channel. My name is Katie. I'm a registered dietitian and personal trainer. And today we're going to talk about, do you need to track your macros in order to reach fitness related or aesthetic goals? This is another Ask the Dietitian segment or Coffee with a Dietitian segment. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to call this. And I want to encourage you, if you have any nutrition or fitness related questions or intuitive eating or anything else that we tend to talk about on this channel, I highly encourage you to leave your comments in the comment section below, because that helps me answer questions that you actually care about. Don't be shy, leave it below. Okay, got my coffee ready. Let's dive into today's topic. I almost choked on my ice. Okay, so the question is, do I need to track macros in order to reach fitness goals? So when you say fitness goals, I'm assuming you mean like gaining muscle and having more muscle tone over your body. So there's a long answer and there's a short answer. The short answer is you absolutely don't need to track macros, and keyword is track macros. That's not to say that you don't need to kind of have a certain level of balance in order to reach those goals, because that part is true. So short answer is no, long answer is you do need to have nutritional balance, but there are other ways to do that, and I'm going to teach you how to do that today. So first and foremost, you need a balance of macronutrients, which are carbs, fat, and protein, in order to not only achieve physical goals and gain muscle, but also to achieve hormonal balance and to fuel your body to feel energized and to have a balanced mood. You can't just eat whatever you want and always have optimal energy. I think we can all agree that when we eat a certain way, we feel more lethargic, more tired, less energized, and more moody. And then when we feel like we're getting a more balance, whatever that looks like for you, we feel better in so many different ways. So I'm going to simplify carbs, fat, and protein and what they're kind of used for in the body. And again, this is a very, very simplified version. We can go more in depth, but for the sake of this video, let's break it down. Protein is primarily used to rebuild muscle and to maintain muscle mass. So if you're not eating enough protein in your diet, then when you go into these workouts where you're breaking down muscle tissue and your body is trying to rebuild it back up, it's not going to have the ability to rebuild it optimally. It's going to prioritize more essential functions of your body versus gaining a lot of muscle. Carbs are your body's preferred source of energy. They help keep us energized and fueled. And if you don't have enough carbs, you're going to notice that you're very, very cranky, because your body and your brain need those carbs to not only keep you and your muscles energized during a workout, but also it keeps you from having brain fog, because your brain wants to have ATP, which is made from glucose, which we can get into the science again, but long story short, your brain and your body need the glucose, which comes from carbohydrates, and it's most easily converted to energy in your body from carbs. Fats do a lot of things in the body that are great for us. One of the primary things that comes to mind when I think of fats is it keeps your hormones in check, and it helps with hormone production, which especially for us women and even for men too, it's important to have that hormonal balance, because again, it can mess with your mood and it can also mess with your body's ability to keep things humming, like for example, your menstrual cycle. So it is important to have optimal fat in your diet, but when we're thinking in terms of aesthetic goals, it is important to, not go way too overboard, but I don't want you to be afraid of eating fats, because fats are really important and they're actually really good for your body and essential for your body. So you don't want to cut them out completely, but if you're looking to have aesthetic goals, then obviously, just like any other macronutrient, you don't want to have too much fat. And the reason why fat is often targeted is because it has 9 calories per gram versus protein and carbs, which have 4 calories per gram. So it's a little easier to overdo it on fat versus carbs and protein. Fat also makes things more palatable, so that makes it a little bit easier to overdo it on fat versus other things. Okay, that was a lot of blabbing and just explaining the background of macronutrients. It feels like it might be irrelevant to this topic, but I think when we're talking about carbs, fat, protein, and aesthetic goals and just fitness goals in general, it's important to note that each of the macronutrient categories has an essential role in your body. So when it comes to counting macronutrients, you don't have to. And I know you're probably thinking, well, Katie, you're a dietitian. You can probably just think of grams and calories in your head, and you already know the background. So of course you don't have to track anything. You know this stuff because of your background. And that is a very valid point, and I totally agree with that, which is why I think that if you're really new to nutrition and you're totally lost and you don't have a back history of disordered eating, or you feel very comfortable with tracking for a short period of time, I think it is okay to track macronutrients just to see where you fall. Because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like someone who is totally new to nutrition has the optimal balance, because it's very likely if you feel lethargic or tired or your hormones are off, then maybe you are getting not exactly the balance that you deserve. There's a little bunny outside, sorry. I'm distracted. He's so cute. Hi, bunny. So I think tracking for a short period of time, that can look different to everybody, is okay. But I think long-term it's better to find a way that doesn't take up a lot of time and doesn't make you feel obsessed or super restrictive about how you eat, because that's just not sustainable, and I'm all for sustainability. So what you can do in order to achieve this balance without counting macronutrients is what I call the plate method, and it's not something that I made up. It's in a lot of different places. In my schooling, I learned the USDA guidelines, which it used to be the food pyramid, now it is my plate, and that is essentially a plate method of how to kind of balance out your meals. So for example, the plate method includes having half of your plate fruits and veggies, a fourth of your plate lean protein, and a fourth of your plate starchy carbohydrates, which includes rice, bread, or potatoes, stuff like that. And corn is also included in that as a starchy carbohydrate. So fruits and veggies also have carbohydrates, so that's important to know. It tends to be a lower amount for the non-starchy vegetables, and fruits have a decent amount of carbs, but they are an important part of your diet, so it's not something that we really need to limit. But anyway, if you follow this flow of having half your plate fruits and veggies, fourth of your plate protein, and a fourth of your plate starchy carbs, you do this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you have snacks that are protein rich and carbohydrate rich, then you are most likely going to get the optimal balance, which is typically recommended to be 50% of your calories from carbohydrates, 20% of your calories from protein, and 30% of your calories from fat. And you might have noticed that in the plate method, it doesn't really single out fats. And that's because typically we find fat naturally in protein-rich foods, and then it's also considering that you're probably adding some sort of fat to cook your food in, or cook your protein or your rice or whatever you have in, or like a bread roll with butter, something like that. So typically, we don't need to go out of our way to try to add fats in unless we really feel like we're under eating fats, because fats typically come along with the things that we eat just naturally to make them more palatable. So that's just a side note about fats. Now, the next question you're probably thinking is, okay, what if I have macronutrient goals that aren't exactly what the USDA guidelines say, like the 50% carbs, 30% fat, and 20% protein? What if I want to do 25% protein and lower carbohydrates? Or what if I want to do higher protein and lower fats? Well, the easy way to do that is to start with your baseline of the plate method, like I mentioned earlier, and then just go from there. So if you want to have less carbohydrates and more protein, then just shift those fractions a little bit. So it might be a third of your plate fruits and veggies, a third of your plate protein, and then a third of your plate starchy carbs. Or it can be a lot of different things. You can switch it up, but just having that like ideal structure in mind for your meals can be a good thing. And again, I don't want it to be something that you have to feel like you obsess about. It doesn't have to be perfect. But again, if you want to do this without macro counting and spending a lot of time crunching the numbers and typing them in your phone and feeling like you're not able to be present with your friends and your family when you're out to eat, if you want to do something that's an alternative, I think the plate method is a great option. So let me know what you think of the plate method and if it's something that you're willing to try in the comment section below. Also, what has been your experience with macro counting or calorie counting, and has it been sustainable for you? My guess is that long-term calorie counting and macro counting for the average person is just not something that is sustainable, but I know it works for some people. So we are not here to judge, but I just want to help you find a sustainable approach to nutrition, which I highly believe is not necessarily in calorie counting or macro counting. So I hope that answered your question today. Again, feel free to ask more questions in the comment section below, and I will love to answer them in a future video. And I'm gonna leave some videos in the end card that I think you'll love that are related to this video. So make sure to keep hanging out with me in the next video. All right, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.